Have you ever stopped to think that Oda may have confirmed the next Straw Hat member years ago, and most people simply didn't notice? I'm not talking about theory. I'm not talking about speculation. I'm talking about an answer Oda himself gave with his own hand in an official SBS that practically threw the crew's future in everyone's face, and somehow the debate is still going on to this day. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly why a specific character already has a reserved seat on the Thousand Sunny, but more than that, I'm going to show you that Oda didn't make this decision recently. He planned it since Chapter 1, and the proof is hidden inside a pattern that runs through the entire story of One Piece, arc by arc, sea by sea, one that very few people have sat down to actually analyze. So stay with me until the end, because what I'm about to show you will completely change the way you see how the Straw Hat crew is being built. The number Luffy himself revealed. Let's start from the very beginning, literally. In Chapter 1 of One Piece, when Luffy was still just a kid with nothing but an absurd dream and an inherited hat, he said something that most people have forgotten over time. He said he wanted at least 10 crewmates sailing by his side. 10 crewmates, not 9, not 12, 10. Today, with Jinbe officially joining as the crew's helmsman, Luffy has exactly 9 crewmates: Zoro, Nami, Usopp, Sanji, Chopper, Robin, Franky, Brook, and Jin. 9 people. So it's natural for everyone to think, just one more to go. Hit 10, close the cycle, story wrapped up. But what if I told you that Oda himself has already signaled that the crew goes beyond that? What if the final number isn't 10, but 13 members in total, including Luffy himself? Because that's exactly what the story's patterns suggest. And once you understand this pattern, you realize there are still 3 members left to join in the new world. 3, not 1. And what's most impressive is that the profile of each of those 3 members is already drawn out. Oda left the blueprints throughout the entire narrative. You just need to know where to look. The pattern of 3 seas. To understand what's coming, you need to understand what already happened. Luffy has sailed through 3 different seas so far. The East Blue, where everything began; Paradise, which is the first half of the Grand Line; and the New World, where the story stands today. And here's the detail that changes everything. In each of those seas, Luffy recruited exactly 4 members into the crew. In the East Blue, it was Zoro, Nami, Usopp, and Sanji. 4. In Paradise, it was Chopper, Robin, Franky, and Brook. 4. And in the New World, so far, only Jinbe has joined. 1. Following this pattern established throughout the entire narrative, there are still 3 members left for the New World, and the final crew will have 13 members in total, counting Luffy himself. But what's even more impressive is that the pattern isn't just about numbers. There's a structure within the structure. Each position within each group of 4 has a specific profile. The first members of each sea share characteristics. So do the seconds. So do the thirds. And so do the fourths. And when you place those profiles side by side, you can map out the next members before they're even officially revealed. Let's break down each one of those positions. The first profile, the Chained Beast. First member recruited in each sea has always shared the same kind of introduction. All of them were presented as bound, chained, or restrained. All of them were called monsters or beasts at some point. And all of them carried a reputation that pushed people away, even if that reputation didn't tell the full story. In the East Blue, it was Zoro. First appearance, tied to a post in Captain Morgan's Marine base. Kobe, early in the story, called him a demon, a beast, something that wasn't even human. Everyone feared Zoro before they ever got to know him. In Paradise, it was Chopper. First appearance, captured, restrained, treated as a dangerous creature by the very people of Drum Island. Throughout the saga, he was constantly called a monster for being neither fully human nor fully reindeer. Someone who didn't belong to either world, and in the New World, it was Jin. When Luffy first met him, where was he? In the level 6 dungeons of Impel Down, in chains. And Jinbe's reputation throughout the story has always included words like beast and monster as a fishman of overwhelming power. 3 first members, 3 chained introductions, 3 monsters who became brothers. Oda doesn't do this by accident. The second profile, the woman without a mother. No, we reach the second profile. And this is where things get really interesting, because this slot in the New World is still wide open. The second member recruited in each sea has always been a woman. But not just any woman. a woman with a direct connection to the main villain of that saga, who lost her mother in a tragic way at some point in her life, and who was first introduced sitting down. In the East Blue, it was Nami. She was part of Arlong's crew, the Ark's villain. She watched her adoptive mother, Belle Ray, get murdered right in front of her. And when Luffy first found her, she was sitting on the rooftop of a bar in Orange Town. In Paradise, it was Robin. She was part of Baroque Works, working directly under Crocodile's orders. She lost her biological mother, Nico Olvia, in the O'Hara incident. And when she first appears close to the Straw Hats, she was sitting on the railing of the Going Merry, facing the crew. 3 details. 3 matches. 2 times in a row, and now you're asking me, who would the second member of the New World be? There is one candidate who checks every single one of those boxes in a way that's almost impossible to ignore. Yamato, and Oda's own confirmation name is Yamato. Yamato is the daughter of Kato, the main villain of the Wano arc. Direct connection to the saga's antagonist? Checked. Yamato's mother is not present in the story. Oda never developed her as an active character, and she no longer exists in Yamato's life in any meaningful way. Tragically absent mother? Checked. And when Oda first introduced Yamato to the reader in full detail, what was her position? Sitting on top of a table, eating. First appearance sitting down? Checked. But here I need to go beyond the patterns for a moment, because the heaviest confirmation doesn't come from narrative analysis. It comes from Oda himself. In the SBS of Volume 114, a reader asked Oda to draw Yamato at age 40 and at age 60, in both possible scenarios, the good future and the bad future. This is something Oda has done with other crew members before. And what did Oda draw? In the positive future, at 40 years old, Yamato is excited, arriving at Wano by ship, calling the country a beautiful place to visit. She's not living there. She's not trapped there. She's passing through, like someone visiting their homeland after a long time away, sailing alongside Luffy. Oda drew, with his own hand, Yamato sailing with Luffy in the future. That's not a theory. That's the author showing the character's destination explicitly in an official piece of material, and in the negative future. At 60 years old, she is still locked into Oden's identity and ends her path the same way he did, burned alive. Oda is saying that if Yamato never finds her own identity, if she keeps trying to be Oden instead of being herself, her fate is tragedy. And the way out of that tragedy is the sea, at Luffy's side. But I know what you're thinking. In chapter 1057, Yamato decided to stay in Wano. The reason she gave was that she wanted to explore the country before setting sail, just like Oden did before leaving with Whitebeard. And guess what she's been doing in the manga's cover stories? Exactly that. She's been visiting every region of Wano, meeting characters from the arc, completing the same farewell ritual Oden went through before heading to sea. She didn't stay in Wano forever. She's getting ready to leave, and there's a parallel that wraps this up perfectly. Remember when Luffy invited Jin to join the crew all the way back in the Fishman Island arc? Jin said he couldn't yet, that he had commitments to fulfill. A lot of people, including serious analysts of the series, thought he would never actually join. And he did join, several arcs later, as the official helmsman. The exact same thing is happening with Yamato. The invitation was accepted. The official entry is still to come. The third profile, the craftsman son of someone famous. Let's move to the third profile. And here the pattern shifts completely. The third member of each sea has always been a craftsman. Someone specialized in building or creating things. All of them were also leaders of a small group. All of them were children of well-known, legendary figures. And all of them were, at some point, hated or rejected by the people around them. In the East Blue, it was Usopp, son of Yasopp, the sniper of the red-haired pirates. Leader of the Usopp Pirates, his little band of village kids, despised in his own village for lying to everyone constantly. And he was the one who repaired the Going Merry, who built Nami's climate tact, who became the crew's go-to for weapons and inventions. In Paradise, it was Frankie, adopted son of Tom, the master shipwright who built the Oro Jackson, the king of the pirates' vessel. Leader of the Frankie family in Water 7, considered a troublemaker by the city for years. And he was the one who built the Thousand Sunny, the ship the crew still sails today, for the third member of the New World. There are 2 candidates that emerge from the Elbaf arc. The first is Loki, the cursed prince of Elbaf, son of King Harold, a central figure of the kingdom. He spent years in chains, accused of having killed his own father to steal the legendary devil fruit. But the truth is that it was Harald himself who asked Loki to use that power. As part of a dark pact with the government, the world saw a son attacking his father and judged him. And even while imprisoned, some people still followed him as their leader. Luffy has already invited Loki to join the crew, and his initial refusal feels a lot like the first time Luffy invited Zoro, who also said no before saying yes. The problem with Loki is one, but it's a big one. He's a full-size giant. He doesn't fit on the Thousand Sunny. For him to join the crew, the ship would have to change, which would actually be a compelling narrative move, considering each major phase of the crew has come with a new ship. But that's still uncertain. The second candidate is Colin. And this one, in my opinion, makes far more immediate sense. Colin is a giant child, daughter of Scapper Gabon, one of the original members of the Roger Pirates crew. Daughter of a legendary figure? Checked. She is the only child in Elbaf who still carries the warrior spirit of the giants, while all the other children were raised as regular kids, with no combat training. Because of that, she was mocked by the other children, despised for what she represented, hated by the group around her. Checked. And she calls herself captain of the Colin Pirates, her own little crew. Leader of a small group? Checked. At the start of the arc, Colin tried to convince Shanks to take her on his ship. He refused. When the Straw Hats arrived, Colin tried to attack Luffy and got a very real demonstration of what it means to face an Emperor of the Sea. And instead of brushing her off, Luffy liked her spirit and said it was good to know not every child had lost their warrior's drive. Luffy recognizing the potential in someone young, fierce, rejected by their peers, and born of a legend. The recruitment script is written in the stars, and Colin is the right size to fit on the ship. She would be the crew's first apprentice, opening a completely new narrative space within the Straw Hats. The fourth profile, the Royal Gentleman. We've reached the fourth and final profile. And this one is different from all the others. The fourth member of each sea has always been an over-the-top gentleman, with a comedic and defining fixation on women, and with some direct connection to royalty. In the East Blue, it was Sanji. Sanji's behavior around women is almost as iconic as Luffy's hat. But beneath all of that, Sanji is genuinely a gentleman, someone who will never raise his hand against a woman no matter the circumstances. And midway through the story we find out he's a prince of the Germa Kingdom. The royal connection was hidden, but it was always there. In paradise it was Brook. The first thing Brook says to any woman he meets is a request to see her underwear. It's practically his formal introduction. But Brook is also a figure of genuine chivalry. He was the leader of the royal escort of the Kingdom of Albania, the king's closest friend. Royalty is in the character's DNA for the fourth member of the New World. This is without question the hardest profile to pinpoint right now. The two most obvious candidates within the recent narrative are Momonosuke and Kaiman. Both have a track record of exaggerated behavior around women, Momonosuke especially when he was a child. And Luffy has already told both of them that whenever they wanted to sail together, they just had to say the word. But both Momonosuke and Kaiman just finished rebuilding Wano. They are leaders of a country that needed them. Simply walking away from all of that to go to sea feels narratively very hard to justify at this point. That's why I believe the fourth New World member hasn't been introduced yet. They exist somewhere on an island the Straw Hats haven't visited yet before the final confrontation. And when they appear, you will recognize the profile immediately, a gentleman connected to royalty, with a distinct and exaggerated personality. When it comes to women, Oda will subvert the archetype in a way that'll have everyone talking. He always does. WHAD. This pattern reveals about Oda. Before wrapping up, I need you to pause for a second and think about what all of this actually means. One Piece has over 1,080 chapters. It's been running since 1997, and the structure I just laid out for you, 4 profiles repeated in each. C was there from the very chapter Zoro was recruited. Oda didn't create this pattern now. He didn't build it retroactively to look clever. He planned the formation of the Straw Hat crew before he put the first character on the page. Each member isn't just someone Luffy ran into and liked. Each member occupies a specific position within a structure that Oda designed at the beginning of the story, and has been executing chapter by chapter with a precision that very few authors sustain for this long. The chained beast, the motherless woman tied to the villain, the craftsman son of a legend, the royal gentleman for positions. repeated 3 times, and 1 time still being completed. And the most beautiful part of all is that once you see this structure, you realize it's not just a cold narrative pattern. It's a philosophy of how Luffy builds bonds. He doesn't recruit people because they're strong or useful. He finds people who were misunderstood, who were isolated, who were judged before they were ever known, and he offers them something the world never did, a second chance. Zoro was the demon. He became the greatest swordsman in the world. Nami was the thief. She became the most precise navigator on the seas. Robin was the assassin. She became the archaeologist who could change the world. Jin was the beast. He became the helmsman who guides the crew with more steadiness than anyone else, and Yamato, who spent her entire life being the monster's daughter, who was never given permission to be who she actually is, will find in Luffy someone who sees her for what she really is. That's One Piece. It's not just adventure. It's about what happens when someone finally believes in you. Conclusionso, to wrap it all up, the final Straw Hat crew will have 13 members, including Luffy, 4 per sea. Following a profile pattern Oda established from the very beginning, the second New World member has already been practically confirmed by Oda himself in the SBS of Volume 114, Yamato. Drawn by the author's own hand, sailing alongside Luffy in the positive future. The third member has 2 strong candidates in Elbaf, Loki, the cursed prince carrying the power of the Black Dragon Nidhogg, or Colin, the daughter of Skapar Gaban, a child with the warrior spirit that everyone tried to snuff out, and the fourth member is still a mystery. But the profile is already defined, a gentleman connected to royalty, with a bold and exaggerated personality, who Luffy will meet somewhere between now and the final confrontation. This isn't random speculation, it's pattern reading. It's Oda being Oda. If you enjoyed this breakdown, drop a like. It helps the channel reach more people who love One Piece as much as we do. If you're not subscribed yet, the button is right there. And hit the bell so you don't miss a single video. And if you want to keep going deep into Straw Hat Theory, I have a video on this channel about what the 5th devil fruit in the crew will be. It's already been revealed inside the story and most people missed it completely. Go watch it, because I'm sure you're going to want to know. Thank you so much for sticking around until the end. See you in the next one.